I'm not even sure Fibbler would be here without that audience in the beginning because it's so crowded today.
How do you execute a CTA? Now, post on LinkedIn, you can't execute CTAs. What's your strategy behind it?
I run these organic posts. Typically, I pick like the best 2-3 posts per month and then kind of sponsor them up as thought leader ads, as they're called. But I always edit them and add a small pitch and CTA at the end of the post.
It is a killer play. Brilliant, because that's an insight I'd never heard from anyone. What are you spending on every ad?
And in the beginning, we were able to spend like 50% of our MRR coming in on marketing. Now we spend about today $10K on LinkedIn ads, dollars per month. I struggled in the beginning, and eventually you just realize that no one cares what you post. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. 26 will be very fun for us because now we have 500 customers. It has taken like 2 years to get there. We had a lot of discussions with different investors, but I pretty early on realized like we have to build a completely different company if we would go down that route.
This is inspiring. What you're building and you're still sticking to being 2-people team is just unbelievable. If you had to leave any founder who's trying to get their first 100 customers one single suggestion, what would that be? Hey Adam, welcome to Edbound with Kenna. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, good to be here. I know you've had a lot of prominent guests before, so looking forward to contribute.
Absolutely. I've heard so many great things about what you do from a lot of other guests. Like I mentioned to you before, Ivan from Gold IQ. I've had Shamu from, he runs a YouTube consulting, manages Adam's YouTube, and I've had many people mention about you, and I'm looking forward to this. But before we go ahead, I'd like to start with this quick intro, which I don't want to hog the limelight for. I want you to tell me, if you are in a room full of entrepreneurs and investors, how do you introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's terrible because I'm kind of an introvert, right? So I would hate to be in that room to begin with. But I would tell people that I am a marketeer first and foremost. I've been in this startup and scale up B2B world for 10 to 12 years now, mainly as an in-house marketeer, as a demand gen leader. That is who I am first and foremost. I love everything about operating a marketing team, about digging down into channels, right? And then obviously I took that. During that period, you find frustration, you find things you're good at. And I decided to take my frustrations to build a product and to actually become a founder, right? And this is my first founder journey ever with this company called Fibbler. But it's just, I'm having a blast doing this. It's honestly the most fun I've ever had at work, doing your own thing. You can create the vision in another way than you can at an in-house company. And yeah, it's who I am, I would say.
And you're based out of Sweden, so kind of, a lot of cool stuff happening in Europe. I think GTM,
for sure. As of late, I think which is so cool to see that not every company needs to come out of the US, right? We are other places in the world where we also can innovate, I think, which is really cool.
Absolutely. Like I said, I've heard so many brilliant things about Fibbler, you. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the product. You mentioned the best way to build is to solve your own problem, because then you're passionate about it and you solve it really to make sure that you don't have the problem again. And you're also connecting with your prospective audience that would have the same problem. So what was this that was going through? What kind of a GTM exercise were you doing? How did you discover what you solved at Fibbler?
Yeah, sure. And, in these past 10, 12 years when I've been working in-house, I've been focusing a lot on paid ads because it's one of the simplest way maybe to get your distribution out there, right? And to actually pay your way to play, so to speak. And what I realized, I'm mainly focused on like LinkedIn ads, Google ads, maybe a little bit of Meta ads, but that's where I've been operating in. What I realized when doing so is that Google ads, a channel that is quite easy to attribute. A lot of people, at least historically, it is changing a little bit now with LLMs and so on, but historically, people have searched for something, they are looking for something, they will, come in onto your site, they will fill out a form, it will be pretty linear, right? But LinkedIn, on the other hand, which I still believe is the most powerful kind of B2B channel for awareness purposes mainly. It's so tricky. Like, you are in front of these buyers for a long time on LinkedIn. You know that most B2B buyers are on LinkedIn, but they end up coming to your site maybe through Google, or they might search for your brand on like an LLM, or they might come direct to your company page, which means that LinkedIn will kind of get zero credit for that. And that was what I always struggled with, doing this in-house. Is I had such a strong belief that everything we did on LinkedIn was really working because we saw growth in the company, but I had a hard time showing that LinkedIn played a part in that. So that was kind of the frustration I had. So I started like stitching together data I could export from LinkedIn with our CRM data. So trying to like stitch together, this is a company touch point here, and this is a company we have in our, and that was amazing. It took me like months to do it for this company. But in the end, it also showed me that LinkedIn had a much bigger impact than I initially thought, right? So this was kind of the initial frustration that I wanted to automate. And on top of this, I should say, like, there are a bunch of vendors in the attribution space today, but most of them are focused on like mid-market enterprise. And I've been working in startups and scale-ups, so I could never afford them. So my whole idea was to, okay, let's take my frustration. Let's build something that I could actually buy with like my own card and actually prove to my executive team, and then I can fend for budget, right? So that was the whole idea behind it. And what we do, to be very clear, is that we take everything that happens on the LinkedIn side and now also on the Google side, and then we tie it very granularly to whatever is happening on the CRM side. So we're able to say like, okay, this deal has been created in the CRM, but before it did so, we can see touch points from both LinkedIn and Google Ads.
So let me also highlight here that I think I have faced this problem in a huge way, and I'll tell you the background to it. Just before my current platform company that I'm building, I was running one of the largest academy builder platform in this part of the world. We had like the largest stock exchange in Asia using our platform, to celebrities with 50 million followers, so like super heavy traffic, almost 70 million plus monetized. The biggest issue that every other week people reported, and they were selling online courses, so that was the product, was attribution between Facebook and Google. Nobody was using LinkedIn because, I mean, if you're selling an online course for that price, it doesn't make sense. But it was a nightmare. And we realized that there was no good way to solve it. We could never solve it. And so if a lead had both been on Google and Meta, both will say this came through me.
Yes, exactly.
And we had tried UTM and I don't know I went quite deep into it, and I wasn't looking at engineering, but this was a problem that I was getting frustrated about. The agencies were saying, this is coming through us, but it wasn't. So
exactly. And that's the tricky part. Like all of the ad channels, they always want to take credit for what they can, right? So they will take credit for the same things, and then it will be like super messy. Also, UTMs is like such a tricky thing because it's like people don't accept cookies, UTMs disappear, and it's like, and they might even come, 90 days later and come in and kind of convert. So I think, the way I am thinking about that, like, we don't care anything about UTMs. We don't even care about leads. What we do is that we kind of match companies by domain from like LinkedIn and from Google with deals and kind of opportunities in the CRM. So we don't look at anything that happened in between. We just make sure that, okay, we can actually match that these companies have been on these channels and then ended up in the pipeline, regardless of how they converted and when they converted. And it's like, so it's like nothing will ever be perfect, but we're trying to at least create this story around both of these channels were present. Which channels is typically the first one, which is the last one? And can we see any differences in like deal sizes, sales cycles, if LinkedIn and Google is part of it, or only so we're trying to, I think something with attribution today is like, it will never be perfect, but if you can at least have data that will kind of inform decisions at least, that also an executive team can trust, I think it helps.
No, I think spot on. And I know for people who are listening to us, today's session is going to be a bit more complicated than what I usually do, because, that's what you're dealing in. You're dealing in the world of complicated.
Yeah.
Let me just put the problem in front of you from a recent LinkedIn experiment that one of our clients ran with our B2B platform. So now we moved into B2B. We have businesses in the US and Europe and UK as our customers. So we have this large customer in the US that was running a pilot. We ran ads to show only on LinkedIn. There was no Google ad, but the target audience was an ABM audience. So we had a set of 1,000 accounts uploaded, but LinkedIn drifted. It wasn't showing the ads only to the 1,000 accounts that we told it to show it to them. It drifted apart. Now, this drift, I later asked Ivan in the Cold IQ pod, and he mentioned that, yes, this is super common, happens with LinkedIn all the time. And that's why we use Fibbler, because it helps us with attribution in a better way. So now I've just laid down the problem. If you could tell me, is this one of the right endpoints for implementation of Fibbler? How does it solve it?
I would say for sure. I mean, I think one issue with LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn has the most powerful like targeting you can have in like the B2B world, but it is not perfect. Like you will always get these companies that you don't want to reach also, like they will include that no matter what. So this is definitely something we've kind of implemented in Fibbler. Yes, you can have the attribution where we kind of match companies between the CRM and LinkedIn as an example here. But we also make sure that you can very easily exclude these companies that you see that doesn't make sense to have there, right? So that's one of the most important part about running an efficient LinkedIn ads.
Can I clarify? Can I clarify? Now, a lot of people put their master data of all the TAM in Clay. Let's just say the whole data lives in Clay. Somebody ran these ads on only the Clay data using LinkedIn ads. Now you're saying that I connect Fibbler to run the ads. Where does Fibbler come and insert itself to solve this exact problem?
Yeah.
That's part one.
In essence, companies are, they're building their audiences in Clay. They're pushing those audience to LinkedIn and to the kind of the campaign manager. Fibbler only connects to campaign manager. And this way we can, see all the companies. We can see all of the titles at these companies that are engaged with your ads. And then we can also, give you or allow you to exclude them much more simply than what you can on the campaign manager. So you can see all of these companies in a list. You can press one button to exclude them. Same thing with titles, right? So it's more like we're like an extension of the campaign manager on the LinkedIn side. And especially I would say we're also connected to your CRM in a way that the campaign manager will never be, right? So
but not Clay. You don't integrate into the Clay dashboard, but you connect with my CRM.
Yes, exactly. So in essence, we're like another middleman that Clay is also like. So we're on opposite ends of kind of the campaign manager side, I would say, to Clay.
Okay. So when I run these ads and I'm only trying to target people in Clay, I mean, I pass that information to LinkedIn Campaign Manager. Now I use Fibbler to pinpoint, sharpen the targeting. And then once that is done, will you also identify any drift? That means people who were not in the initial audience but were shown the ad. Would I be able to?
No, we will partly do that. I mean, we will show you all of the companies that are exposed to your ads. We don't show you if they are part of like the original targeting from Clay, but you will most likely see which companies shouldn't be here. We don't spot that drift necessarily, but I think it's pretty easily to spot. But what we're focusing on more is obviously the attribution part, as we've been talking about. So, okay, we take all of that targeting, all of the exposure that you now have, and then we connect that to the CRM. So what's happening inside the CRM? And it will also be very clear when we do that if the targeting is off, right? Because if the targeting is off, you will most likely have no impact towards the CRM. And, that's when we kind of highlight the drift or like in that sense.
Yeah. So what you're saying essentially is when I look at my CRM based on my initial target, your platform kind of syncs with it and tells me how effective is the campaign, right? And if I was showing it to the right people. No, super awesome. Please go ahead.
And I mean that's what we're saying, right? We're trying to say like, okay, they had these touch points on LinkedIn. Then at some point after that, they ended up in the pipeline. So, and then we are giving like, you spent this much and you have this kind of efficiency into the pipeline and so on. And if that is very low, it's a clear indication that either targeting is off or, the advertising is not kind of resonating with the targeting. So it's different ways to kind of highlight what is not working. Yeah.
All right. Now, I get this. I think this is a brilliant problem to solve. And I'm assuming that I could connect Fibbler with Attio, HubSpot, Fork, all the modern tools, right? I mean, you have integrations or MCP endpoints built in.
Yeah, we support all the major CRMs, I would say. MCP is definitely something we haven't launched yet, but it's the next big thing we're working on because it's so damn awesome. I mean, because I know myself, I live in Claude, right? And to get that data into your own environment, it's critical. So it's definitely the big thing we're working on now.
So this morning, we launched about 27 tools in our platform on our MCP. I mean, I can see that we were calculating the list. We ideally are going to need 263 tools. So, because if we want to pass to everything to Claude, I think that's where we'll have to go. So this is an interesting time to live, right? I mean, for techies, I think it's kind of heaven right now. What's happening is just unbelievable.
I mean, it's a crazy world, and it's maybe slightly off topic, but it's like today in this world, like I'm a marketeer, I'm a decently technical person, but I'm not a developer. But today, I can do lots of the development in our platform. And then I have my CTO who kind of makes sure it works in the end, right? But I can develop most of the features. Like in another world where AI doesn't exist, I have to explain to my CTO how I want something to work, how it should look like. But now I can build it. I can show it to him.
Are you
make it work.
prototyping?
Yes. No, I'm not stopping at that. I'm building inside the production environment, right? But in the end, before pushing it live towards
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I started doing exactly the same thing, and I know coding, but I've done it in my university days. I've not done it after that. I never had to, but I'm coding back again, and it's exactly the same solution that we have arrived at. That don't push my code, without a proper review.
No, exactly. But it's also, I feel like it's so much more efficient when, I am the marketeer. I have kind of the vision for how we should build this. And if I can mock that feature up fully, it's so much quicker, and he can just make sure it works. And also, it's so, I mean, it's such a cool environment to be in as a marketeer, I think. And I think it's also one of the reasons why I think marketeers in this, today, make such good founders, because they can, they obviously have the marketeer lens of distribution and branding and so on, but they can also code today.
Yeah. So we can be really fast to market. Now let's, jumping back onto the conversation around, I understand what Fibbler does. What's working for you for your own GTM playbook? You mentioned ads are doing well, but let's look at a 30,000 feet view of your GTM stack right now. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I mean, I think this has been a critical part of our success. We started 24 months ago or something now, and now we have 500 paying customers. We're completely bootstrapped. And the big portion of that has been our go to market. And I think in general, where we started was that I already had a pretty big audience on LinkedIn built up. So that was kind of the key. I have been, almost 30,000 as I have today. I had before even start, and it was, everyone in that audience had the same kind of role as I had in the past. So they were heads of growth, demand gen leaders, heads of marketing, and I had never asked anything of them. So when we finally launched this product, and I had a lot of trust built up. So I think we, very quickly got our kind of first 50 paying customers from my network only.
Wow.
So that was, I'm not even sure Fibbler would be here without that audience in the beginning, because it's so crowded today. You have to find your kind of distribution moats in a way. And the way we kind of continued that was, I'm obviously from Sweden, so I had a bigger network in Europe than I had in the US. And we realized most of the ad spend is going to the US, so we have to grow there. So what we did was to take all of my best performing organic posts and just sponsor them up as much as we could towards the US market. And that is literally the only thing we did for the first 12 months. And today we have most of our customer base in the US. And I think that is a big part of why that is.
Let's dial in. This sounds super exciting. So you promoted the posts in the US region. A few questions there. Is your product demo-led or is it PLG? Somebody could just sign up?
Yes, it's PLG. In the first 12 months, I never had a demo. It's completely self-serve. People upgrade. Exactly. It's affordable in that sense.
What's the average order value annually?
It's $1,000 to maybe $1,500 or so.
Annually, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you don't need demos for that. But yeah, that's a good thing. Now, when you promote those posts, what's the funnel behind it? What's the workflow and what happens next when somebody looks at your post? What happens after that?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Like it's little bit more built out today, right? But typically we run these. We have like one cold layer inside LinkedIn towards the US market, and it's typically posts around Fibbler's growth journey, like more attention grabbing posts, not so much about the product, more about the Fibbler's growth journey, our kind of positioning in the market, more about my thoughts about attribution, like try to get that first attention. And when people have either engaged with that, come to our site and so on, we obviously start with the retargeting layer. And here we're obviously doing the same thing with kind of posts and so on, organic posts, but much more product led in a sense. So actually showing them how we give value, how we solve this problem. But I think we do that over a bit longer time. So people have a little bit of trust built up. They've seen my face and my post for maybe a few months before I start pushing product down their throat, so to say. And so I think that has been a massive part of kind of our success initially, for sure.
How do you execute a CTA? Now, I mean, posts usually on LinkedIn, you can't execute CTAs. What's your strategy behind it? Everybody has a different take on it.
Exactly. So what we do is basically I run these organic posts. Typically, I pick like the best 2-3 posts per month and then kind of sponsor them up as thought leader ads, as they're called. But before I sponsor them up, I always edit them and I add kind of a small pitch and CTA at the end of the post. And this way we can track how many people click on the actual CTA, come onto our site and signs up and everything like that. So that is like our hack, so to say, to get CTAs inside the post. But I always do it after the organic post have kind of stopped spreading its organic wings. Then I edit it and then I sponsor it up. So I think that's a killer play.
It is a killer play. I mean, brilliant, because that's an insight I'd never heard from anyone. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
When you're doing it, I mean, if I could drill into, because I understand your, like lifetime value estimation, what's the average order value? What are you spending on every ad? Usually, what's your budget looking like? And what could be the acquisition cost?
Yeah, I think this has obviously increased over time. But I think in the beginning when we started, I mean, we did this on the side of our full-time job. So we were able to already, like from almost the get-go, spend like 50% of our MRR coming in on marketing. Because I knew that if we wanted to take a position in this market quickly, we had to, spend, we had to make a name for ourselves quickly, because otherwise someone else will take it. So it was like we did that for a long time. And then obviously now we're full time and we're, taking salaries and so on. But we spend about today, maybe 10K on LinkedIn ads, dollars per month.
Okay.
And I would say a lot of that money is going into this kind of organic to paid place still. And today we get now we have other channels, but this is still, I would say, 80 to 90% of our inbound growth. I think we get around 400 to maybe 500 signups each month today.
That's brilliant.
And I would say this is a big driver of that. So, I mean, the acquisition cost, as we're saying, like we typically think are pretty high on LinkedIn, right? But I think at some point, and I think this is what we've kind of done, like everything you do on LinkedIn, it compounds. So, I mean, it's like the brand has been built. So a lot of these people that have seen us for a long time on LinkedIn, they come in through direct or they come in through searching for a brand, because it's so I really think today we spend about 10K, I would say, and we get maybe 50 to paying customers per month at this point.
That's a good rate, man. I mean, if you're talking about
right now, yes. But I think it's also because, the rate wasn't that in the beginning. So I think it takes some time. You need to have kind of also trust in the process a little bit, because if you start LinkedIn today, you will not see 100 signups this month, right? It takes time. Yeah. And if you believe in that and kind of continue on, I think it all compounds.
I mean, a 10%, because if I imagine, 50 to 100, so you're hitting between 10 to 20% conversions on demos. I mean, you must have designed the product onboarding really well, and it's a tough domain. It's not an easy one. I mean, kudos. I think that you have some really healthy metrics. And
no, but we definitely did. I mean, that was also like in the beginning, we did everything on the side, right? So I knew that if we were going to be able to do this, I had to be out of the like sales process. We had to make it so damn simple so that you can sign up on your own. And in the beginning, we also did very little. Like the only thing you could do was to connect your LinkedIn ads account, your CRM, and like see this dashboard. That was like literally the only thing you could do in the beginning.
Yeah. But no, I think this is great. But have you heard about some of the companies' LinkedIn accounts getting wiped because they were advertising LinkedIn outreach on automation? I don't know if you heard about it. There was a big one yesterday.
100%.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had some of those guys on my pod. But yeah, I think LinkedIn's what you're doing is all legit power to LinkedIn. I think you basically one of the few companies that I meet in the LinkedIn ecosystem, which is adding true value to the LinkedIn ecosystem. So I think.
No, and I think that's like LinkedIn has very clear terms and conditions, right?
Yeah.
And if you as a company or a person decide not to follow them, like I get it, like there can be monetary incentives to do so, of course, but there can't come as a shock when they kind of bash down on that eventually, right? So for us, it has been critical to always, adhere by their rules because, it is their platform. It is on their platform we play.
Yeah.
And, we have to do that, I think, if we want to be a long-term partner of them. I think that's important.
Any thoughts on Substack? Have you done anything?
No, but I obviously read a lot on Substack, and I think it's a great platform. But I don't think it's it's obviously not the same advertising monetization there yet. So it's a bit more organic platform still, I feel like. But what I love about Substack is kind of what LinkedIn is lacking a little bit. It is like that you can go into depth with the content a lot.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I miss from LinkedIn. Sometimes you have these posts and then you feel like at the end of the post, I feel like it's a bit too high level sometimes. You can't really go, you only have these X amount of words, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like substance gives more substance for sure in that scenario.
No, I think it does. And let me just quote Vaibhav here from Smartlead. So he's the founder of smartlead.ai, and we were having this conversation and he spoke about something brilliant. He said, the life of content on LinkedIn is probably 1.5 days. People forget about your post after, let's say, 2 days. Max,
exactly.
Right? Twitter is possibly an hour.
Yeah.
YouTube is forever.
Yeah.
And Substack is similar to that because it's long form content. And this is such a brilliant insight because, I feel like someone like you who's done so well on LinkedIn, I think we've all got to jump on Substack. I think, I have my plans to kind of do that. But if you look like it, I mean, one of the playbooks that could work for all of us is this podcast that we are doing right now. You have just opened up such a brilliant playbook. We could truly use AI to repurpose this into long form content for Substack, right? Which is tough if you don't do this. If you go on to write all this, it's just a heck of a job.
I completely agree with you. And that is also like the playbook I shared previously now with organic kind of paid. That is great, but it will only work up until, a while, right? If you want to scale further, I think what you're mentioning is an excellent add-on, right? And what we're doing now with Fibbler is YouTube as an example. You had Sam on here before, like, because it's such a, so basically what he does for us is to take my kind of LinkedIn post, make them into like long form content that I can record on YouTube. And it's so damn good to have that. Like it's a great addition, I think.
Yeah, it is. No, brilliant. I want to dive a little bit deep into your playbook for building your content brand. Let's hear more about this. So how does someone start from, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 followers on LinkedIn? It would be fantastic if you could lay down the rules and the playbook that they should be following. What did work for you?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've done a lot of mistakes in this also, I should say, so I can maybe try to get you to avoid those. I think the most important part is figuring out early what you want to be known for. I think you can only have so many things that people will remember who you are for and so on. As an example, I've been focusing a lot on like LinkedIn ads. I want to be kind of the LinkedIn ads guy that share how
links directly with Fibbler. So it's a brilliant
links directly with Fibbler, but it's still not me kind of pitching Fibbler. So I think that's also important, like finding a closely related subject that you are an expert in to your product and just hammer on that. Because as you said before, like the maybe attention span of a post is 1.5 days or something like so. So what you write yesterday, like if you write a similar post the day after, like people will not remember that, which is also the brilliant thing. So I think the first step is definitely, finding that narrative, kind of what do you want to get known for. And what I've done as of that is create these content pillars for myself. So I have about 3 and 4 that those should be in my content every week. So I'm posting every weekday. You don't have to do that when you start. Once every week would be a good start as an example.
So you're not doing on weekends. You're missing the weekends, right?
I'm missing the weekends right now.
Okay.
It's actually would be a good add-on to me, but I have so much lower engagement on weekends, so it has just not been worth it for me as of now.
Yeah.
And I also like to relax on the weekend a little bit.
Yeah. I should say. You're a Swede, right?
Exactly. I can't do that.
Yeah, if you weren't like this, you would be in Silicon Valley, right? I mean,
indeed, 996. No, exactly. And I mean, so I have these content pillars. It's typically like I talk about LinkedIn ads. I talk about building this company. I'm very transparent about what we do. And then I talk more in general about like ABM and kind of attribution and those things. So I'm trying to, and then I have like a personal 4th pillar where I'm trying to get something from like my family or what happened in my real life. So I'm making sure I try to always get those content pillars in every week. And then I just continue to hammer on those.
Nice.
So I'm typically talking about similar things every week, but it's like that is also what makes you gain followers and what makes people know who you are and what to kind of expect from you. And then I should say, like in the beginning, when you start out on LinkedIn, I think it's equally important that you connect with people yourself. Like that is like in the beginning, it's very hard to like grow a reach, but if you connect with people, you can do like 100 each week or so before hitting the cap. You connect with people that you want to sell to in the end, right? And that will most likely engage with your post. Over just, a few months, you will have 1,000 followers if they accept, right? So I think that's the first step I would do, like connect with a lot of people on your own that's relevant and, start commenting because it's such a lower threshold in a way. And comments today get a lot of visibility compared to posts. I think where people kind of have a hard time in the beginning is getting the confidence to post and kind of, because it's hard. I mean, I struggled in the beginning and eventually you just realize that no one cares what you post. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think those are brilliant ideas. I have a few follow-on questions to the playbook. Commenting, are you following a specific cadence? As in some people say, I start commenting an hour before I post, because that way, my post shows up in everybody that I've commented on and they come back and see both of the things together. Do you have a playbook like that or it's just...
No, but I would say that I have experimented a little bit with like if I'm active a lot before and kind of after my post goes live, does it make a meaningful differences in my engagement? And I haven't really concluded that it does so, to be honest. It's more about the content of the post. So no, today I would say that I'm not spending too much. I do comment a lot on posts, but it's more like organically. I do scroll a lot throughout the day on LinkedIn. So it's more organic whenever I feel like commenting. But I have tested a little bit of that because that's a typical theory, right? If you engage a lot around your post window, you should get more engagement. But I haven't really seen so, at least.
Yeah. No, makes sense. And are you using AI to augment a lot of your content production? Where all are the workflows inserted right now?
Yeah, but for sure, I think this is also something that has improved a lot over time, right? I live in Claude a lot today, and Claude kind of knows everything about me, everything about Fibbler, everything about our code even. So I do a lot of my, not necessarily content. I typically write most of the content, like at least a draft or like an outline or so. But I typically use like Claude to clean it up or to make sure that I'm following the content pillar well, or definitely. And I think it's an awesome tool. I just think it's important that you find your voice. If you use an AI, sure, but make sure that you kind of follow your voice guidelines at least, like to make sure it sounds like you.
I have a voice skill built for my voice. I've trained it on 10,000 emails and things that I've written in the past. So
that's brilliant.
It writes exactly like me. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is me writing. And believe me, for the last almost a month, I haven't written a single email all by myself. I just
Wow.
whisper flow, like use whisper flow, speak it into Claude, and then, I have everything set up. It's just all of those workflows. But I think, yeah, this is a lot of people don't know that this has already happened. They just equate to 6 months ago what was possible. And they are like, you can't write with AI because it looks AI. It doesn't anymore. It's just your
No.
voice.
It's been such a massive shift, right, in the past 6 to 12 months. I mean, I
Absolutely.
agree that a year ago, ChatGPT, it was not good in terms of content at all. But today, as you say, if you train it well, it's more on you to train it than it is on the AI, right?
Absolutely. And people don't get it. I speak to tons of advanced founders, Series B, Series C, all kinds of guys. And they get locked into the AI where it was 6, 7, 8 months ago. They don't
Yes.
realize Claude is shipping weekly now. I mean, literally
It is
weekly.
insane.
Yeah. You won't believe this is worth quoting here. When they just came out with Dispatch, that the day before Dispatch came out, I was wishing for that, they need something. Why do I need an OpenClaw? They came out with Dispatch and now I could chat with the, computer that I have with Claude Cowork. I used it. And that morning, wherever I was, found that the notifications on the computer didn't show up on Dispatch. And I just tell Claude, hey, could you write to the Claude development team, tell them that it's not there and it's a bad experience. I have to look at the computer. What's the point? Literally 3 hours later, it was live. 3 hours. I don't know if I made it happen or multiple other people of bitched about it, but imagine the pace.
I feel like that's also the big difference in today's world, right? That the pace, that's why that we are two people, right, at Fibbler, and we can outpace a lot of these older, like legacy platforms in a way, because
I didn't ask how many people in Fibbler. I didn't get. Usually
we're two people.
Unbelievable. Are you serving 500 plus customers, signing almost at the rate of 100 customers a month? I love you, man.
And I mean, our aim is to continue to be this lean, continue to lean on AI. Maybe it breaks at some point, we'll see. But I mean, right now, what I'm experiencing, what I'm like testing a lot is kind of AI support in a way, because over time, as we get more customers, like support has obviously increased, and I have to do a lot of that. But the way, so I'm testing a lot of that, especially with like Finn, Intercom's AI agent. It's so good. I mean, I'm just astonished by how good it is.
So I think Anthropic uses Finn. Every time my Claude code sends a feedback to Claude, Finn replies, and then my Claude talks to, so I have a scheduler event. It's just Finn talking to them, and then Finn replies, okay, this is there then.
Exactly.
It's just unbelievable.
And it's the same thing as we talked about before, right? If you train it well enough, it can even speak like you. I mean, it knows you. It knows everything you're doing with your product. It knows your code. I mean, you just have to tell it to don't say any trade secrets maybe, but it's crazy to me.
Yes, it is. It is. No, but this is inspiring. I mean, what you're building and you're still sticking to being two people team is just unbelievable. So more power to you. I really wish that, you are in the race for that one person $1 billion company.
Let's see. I mean, we have been, what we did in the beginning, we had a lot of discussions with different investors and so on. But I pretty early on realized like we have to build a completely different company if we would go down that route. But the vision that I have, we would have to kind of leave that vision behind. And I couldn't do that. So this is also the reason why we kind of continue down the bootstrap lane, because, we control what we want to do in a way, which is so much fun and also good, I think, in this.
No, this is brilliant. I think some of the big things that you spoke about, audience first, and then you come out with a product. I think this is one thing that I love about what you're doing. And I mean, some of your content on LinkedIn has just been brilliant, but I think you've been super generous in sharing this so freely. So, thanks for that, right? I think this is great. Now, how much of a time contribution you make yourself to the content creation? I mean, I've had Adam on the pod as well. And we all know Adam does crazy hours, right? So what's your schedule?
He's definitely a and he's a big inspiration, of course, as well to running a lean. Like they are probably at $7 million dollars in ARR today, right? With three people or something. So that's the big inspiration, right, to get there. I would say I spend probably less hours than he does, but what I do is I typically outline all of my content throughout the weekend, and then I just schedule it all for the week, and then I might, So during the week, I typically just route down small notes on inspiration I have on what post to do next week. And then I kind of outline it all, kind of schedule it all on the weekend. So it's good to go for like the next week.
No, that's great to know. So one of the workflows that's worked really well for me is I speak into my Apple Watch on reminders. So if I have an idea, I just say, hey, here is a LinkedIn idea. This is the idea, right? And I dictate. Yeah. Every morning, my computer, which has Claude on schedule running, it just filters out the ideas, puts it into the skill. My team processes it. So that's the workflow. So you're literally never producing particularly.
I feel like I'm lagging behind when it comes to using voice with AI. And I need to start doing that, because then I can be a lot more productive in the car and stuff like that as well.
You've got to do this. You have to build workflows, and Whisperflow is one of the first things that you've got to. Yeah, because I mean, that's like one of the best apps right now. And I mean, we're doing it.
And Whisperflow connects to like Claude and those things, or?
No, once you start using it, it connects to anything. It actually lives on your Mac or on your mobile, and then it just lets you dictate into any application.
Oh, that's awesome.
Per se,
that's
right?
Awesome.
So I think you've got to do that, and it'll literally make you 2 times faster.
Great tip. Tip.
That's the minimum you're going to gain. So I met Tanay, who's the founder in SF last year. Brilliant guy. I mean, such a brilliant story. And, I think building a great company there. But I think voice would be a game changer. But then also, one of the game changers that I feel for content workflows is going to be Claude now running on a Mac machine that you'll have to keep on. It just stays on, runs tons of workflows on schedule. So that's what. So we are building it into our project manager, chief of staff. Yeah, like it's doing tons and tons of stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah. No, this is brilliant. So, okay. Now I think I have just one last question that I usually ask people. You've shared so much about. Actually, I have 2, because I want to know a little bit about your content preference. You do a lot of content, and content can have multiple flavors. If we look at the flavors, and people know this on the internet, you can either educate people, especially in B2B, you can entertain them, you can make them feel something, cry, laugh, all of that, or shock them, right?
Yeah.
Those are the big 4. I mean, there are many others that fall into those. Which ones are your favorite? And I know it, and why? Like, if you could just put a bit of color.
I would say that I'm the complete opposite to an Adam Robinson that have a very aggressive point of views, right? And try to kind of shock people in a way. I'm more of the educational kind.
Yeah.
Trying to, I'm Swedish. We don't like conflict. So I'm trying to not to get into conflict with people. But I mean, in general, trying to, most posts to have some sort of value I'm at least trying to give. And then I think I'm still trying to have like a strong point of view, but not like an aggressive point of view. It's more that. So I would say education first. I definitely are trying as well to make people feel something sometimes. If I'm, celebrating a success we've had, I want people to feel, what it takes to get there, because, there's only a little small portion that you see, but it's also a lot of fires that you've fixed 12 months leading up to that. So I think it's a lot of emotion I'm trying to tap into as well, together with the educational part.
No, I'm with you there. I think it's an art that not everybody can get. I mean, that's what our company kind of stands for. Edbound, the whole concept that I believe in is that it shouldn't just be a plain inbound or outbound. Education-led motions are what sustains it. So I think that's where the power is. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, if you had to leave any founder who's trying to get their first 100 customers, with one single suggestion, what would that?
No, but I think in general, you have to today create an audience somehow. Like it doesn't have to be on LinkedIn, but you have to find a place where you can build an audience that you can talk to. It can be emails, like you can build an email list. That also works.
Like a newsletter. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's so critical, right? We have more SaaS companies than ever, right? And it's only going to come more.
Yeah.
And the ones that will win will be the ones that,
Distribution.
distribution. They should have a good product, but I mean, distribution is what will make the difference. Because I think features today, it's very hard to be unique. I mean, it's going to, and even if you're unique, someone else will do the same thing in the next week.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. This is so good. This is so good. Thank you so much for sharing all of this so freely.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. And I think, I'm so excited. I'm rooting for you. I'm like genuinely feeling this excitement for you being a 2-member team. I didn't know that it kind of come through.
Thank you so much. We're excited as well. I think 2026 will be, very fun for us, because it's also like now we have 500 customers. It has taken like 2 years to get there, but I think that also compounds, right? Then they talk about the product and there's more people talking about. So I'm hoping for a big year for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you so much, Adam. This has been brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.